St Thomas's are very much back on the road after beating Liam Mellows 113 to 14 points in the Galway County Final at the weekend. And clearly, they're not a team that just because they lost the All-Ireland Club Final and lost it comprehensively to Ballyhale Shamrocks earlier in the year, that they're like shutting up shop, or that belief has gone out the window, or that you can't come back from a defeat like that, because that is very, like, to lose like that, it has this kind of knock-on effect of almost making players think, well, can we bridge a massive gap like that, and especially really quickly? And it might knock belief out of some players, but perhaps that's not the case with St Thomas's, because they had to grit it out here. Mellows were 11 points to 7 ahead at half time, scored just 3 points in the second half, which is, it's fairly poor in a county final. Hard to know exactly why, but Thomas is doing back-to-back, and they've never lost a final that they've played in Galway. Just 6 points from play in total from Liam Mellows. So that would tell you that St Thomas's shut them down. Éanna Burke scored 1-3. Dara Burke scored 5 points. 4 of those were frees. And Bernard Burke got 2. Davy Burke got 1. And 2 points then also for Fintan Burke. And David Connors was tweeting that Fintan Burke makes an unbelievable comeback from an ACL tear that happened in this year's All-Ireland Final on St Patrick's Day. That was, of course, when he went full back and was trying to chase around Colin Fennelly. He went on to say, an absolute hero, comes on an attack, scores 2 points and sets up the final point. What a player. And no doubt he'll be someone that'll be on Shane O'Neill, the new Galway manager's mind. David Burke said about Shane O'Neill, the new Galway manager, the name is probably unfamiliar in Galway circles, but he seems like a good guy. Hopefully the players can row in behind him and move on. Now, what do I know about Shane O'Neill? I mean, at an inter-county level, he's untested. Of course, you know, just because he's untested, there are plenty of managers out there with inter-county experience, and they're definitely no longer the right man for the job. So this guy is a solicitor, apparently very organised guy. He's very much supposed to be a player's man. He was over in Piershick for 3 years, very good tenure, won the Club All-Ireland involved with them, and like, obviously I was part of Matty Kenny's Coola team, and we were trying to analyse his team, and you know, kind of reflecting on the drawn All-Ireland final, but say in 2018, and for sure you could see the Shane O'Neill guy is switched on. Tactically, he looked at how to shut down Coola, and definitely gives an awful lot of bother. So next year you will have a reprisal of that rivalry between Matty Kenny, who'll be over Dublin, and Shane O'Neill, who'll be over Galway. So that'll be interesting to see. But after the months and months of kind of rancour there with Galway, I think it's actually a pretty positive appointment. Could do an awful lot worse than him. Yeah, I'm sure plenty of people in Galway will have their eyebrows raised at it. I don't think they had particularly good options anyway. But irrespective, I still think Shane O'Neill is a quite strong one. Fair enough, maybe in a Piershick strong club, did well with kind of what should have been a fairly winning ticket anyway. But the fact is he did well with them. So I think it's a positive. It's still obviously not road tested for inter-county, but all in all, I think you could do far, far worse, and could be a very good appointment considering what's happened. The Munster Club semi-finals. So I was down in Thurles to see Borris-Ileigh beat Glen Rovers. It was 117 to 38. Conor Kenny, known as Moose, he scored 6 points from play. Had 3 of those scored, I think, after 3.5 minutes. He was on Robert Downey, who's played for Cork this year. Then there was a swap. Downey went in full back. Borris-Ileigh could have won this game by a point a man. I just think it's one of those things where maybe Glen Rovers, they played their county final against Imachilly, was it 3 weeks ago, lost that game. Then if you somehow try and rouse yourself again for a provincial championship that you probably know with the quality of, we'll say, Ballygunner in there, and considering your previous experiences of getting to a provincial final and losing that, there's a fair chance you won't win it. You've taken a knock on the head by losing your county title, and you know their performance was quite poor. They didn't have Stephen O'Donnell, and I think when you don't have one of your inter-county players, if you've only got 1 or 2 inter-county players and you don't have one of those available, like, he's a huge loss in the back line there, definitely. They didn't even have a shot for the opening 9 minutes, and that was when Simon Kennefick broke in from the right wing, soloed through, hand passed across for Patrick Horgan, who batted in the goal first time, which was just a touch class. But Borris-Ileigh should have been maybe 6 or 7 points ahead at that stage, and Glen Rovers ended up drawing close. Goal at the start of second half from James Devaney, JD as he's known. Very clever. Borris-Ileigh kind of more or less brought everyone out, left Niall Kenny in full forward. The other corner forward, Kevin Maher, he was over at the corner flag. So James Devaney's pace soloed straight through, and that has the look of a pre-designed sort of thing, and Johnny Kelly, the manager, would definitely deserve credit for that. I think Borris did unbelievably well to get back up for this so soon after winning a first county title in 33 years, because the celebrations, the bonfires, the enjoyment, we'll say, was pretty huge for a few days. I spoke to Brendan Maher afterwards, and here's a sample of what he had to say.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Sure, I suppose after the great win last weekend, it was a tough, I suppose, task to try and regather during the week, and you know, we had the celebrations and the giddiness during the week of, you know, yeah, rugby's fault, Paddy saying this. But look, I mean, today was about getting over it. Like a semi-final is about winning, and you know, we've 2 weeks out to prepare fully for a Munster final. And sure, look, it's great. I mean, it's somewhere we've never been, so look, what's not to like about it?
And you can catch the full interview there on the playlist, on the interviews playlist on the YouTube channel. There's also an interview with JD and Johnny Kelly, so have a look at that. Will O'Callaghan put out an interesting tweet saying Offaly hurling management could be busy double jobbing for the next couple of months. Michael Fennelly, who's the Offaly manager, he's with Ballygunner at the moment. They're the favourites to win Leinster, and Johnny Kelly has Borris-Ileigh in the Munster final. Ballygunner beat Patrickswell 17 points to 9. So that's Ballygunner looking to do back-to-back in the provincial championships, back into the final. What it smacked of when I watched it back was like a clinical team that's been here before, you know, against a more inexperienced side in Patrickswell at this level. We'll say they've been in Munster before, but nowhere near as often as Ballygunner have. Away from home, left scores behind them, so many wasteful shots. I mean, it was 6 points to 1 after 22 minutes, but it shouldn't have been. So that's Ballygunner into a third club final in a row. You can't ignore the huge blow that Kieran Carey, the Patrickswell manager, had before the game. Regular goalkeeper Brian Murray, he got injured in the warm-up. Jason Gallan, he had to go into the goals. Andrew Carroll came in at full forward, and maybe that's the reason that Aaron Gallan seemed to spend most of his time out wing forward, because you'd love to have him closer to goal, and all that ties back into being 6 points to 1 down. Maybe you wanted, and I know Gallan himself got blocked down early in the game, so it wasn't just that, but definitely that would have ruined Kieran Carey's plans a little bit. You'd want Aaron Gallan at the sharp end of the sword, being the one taking the shots as often as possible. I think if you're to look at how Ballygunner set up, they draw a huge amount of players out around the field. Like, they've great half back line, Philip Mahoney, Barry Coughlin, Shane O'Sullivan is in and around there. Pádraig Mahoney, who starts at centre forward, he spends a huge amount of time out around midfield and even kind of drifting back towards the zone 65, following the play up, and of course he can score from anywhere. He's such a good player. Desi Hutchinson and Peter Hogan were the two men inside, and it goes back to those excellent players that I've just named in and around the middle 8 for Ballygunner, that if they get their heads up, they can pick brilliant ball either side of the 14 for those two really fast, explosive inside forwards. So Patrickswell certainly struggled with that. So how do you deal with it? How are Borris-Ileigh going to deal with it? Obviously you're going to have pacey man markers on those two guys inside, so Paddy Stapleton, and will probably pick up one, maybe Seamus Burke or Liam Ryan the other. But the main problem is making sure that supply doesn't go in there. And for Brendan Maher, do you follow out Pádraig Mahoney and leave your backline exposed to that sort of pace that I've just talked about? Or do you get someone else to man mark him? So I think Ballygunner have to be absolutely unbackable favourites to win this, but Borris-Ileigh do have plenty of quality. But again, it comes back to what I started with Ballygunner. Very clinical team who've been here before, don't really leave too many scores behind them. Against Borris-Ileigh, a team that should have won by 15 points based on the general flow of the play, because Glen Rovers weren't at it at all. And are Borris-Ileigh going to do the same thing again and leave scores behind them? You know, it's their first time at the dance here, first time in 33 years. None of those players have experienced this, so that remains to be seen. But if Borris-Ileigh can find a way to sort of disrupt Ballygunner's game plan, which is a very good game plan, and not leave a lot of scores behind them, it could be a close game, but for sure Ballygunner massive favourites here. And as per Will's tweet, there's plenty of hurling on this weekend, and I spoke with Rory O'Connor a couple of days ago of St. Martin's. They're coming up against Ballyhale, and here's a quick little snippet of what he had to say.
So we've kind of a new team, or a fresh team. I made my debut in 2015 along with Conor Farmer. We were about 17. We got to a county final, so we got a taste of it but didn't win. Failed kind of year in 2016, and then 2017 we came around and we won our first county final. So when you win your first one, you kind of we didn't really look beyond in that kind of sense, so we were very content, very happy. Obviously we were looking forward to the Coola game, and Coola were brilliant on the day, and ultimately that year as well, but didn't really perform that day, and it wasn't really a hunger there, in the sense that we were nearly kind of content in what we'd done in Wexford. But now we've won Wexford again. We kind of see what Coola have done. We've seen what Ballyhale done last year, and how special it will be to do something like that. So by no means we're going up to not just take part, we're hopefully going to go up and give it a right rattle and try, cause an upset.
So yeah, you can catch that full interview just on the playlist there. You can scroll down and see it. The Ulster final was on at the weekend as well. Slaughtneil of Derry beat Dunloy of Antrim 115 to 10 points. So that's champions for the third time in 4 seasons, which is very good going. Cormac O'Doherty bagged the only goal of the game after 48 minutes. That was a penalty. Conal Cunning hit 7 points for Dunloy. I think the changing of the game was a red card after 38 minutes for Nigel Elliott. So that'll be the Leinster champions that Slaughtneil will face in the All-Ireland semi-final stages. And Caro Kane, who's a journalist based up in that neck of the woods, what he said is there hasn't been much doubt for a while now that Slaughtneil have been the best hurling team ever to come out of Derry, but they're closing in on being one of the best out of Ulster. No football distractions, no Coola. It's very good chance for a real rattle at an All-Ireland. And Nigel O'Brien replied to him saying, final being moved to January, also a positive. January hurling more likely to suit than a dry March day against the likes of Coola. Some men who can hurl with the best for sure. I think Ballyhale are definitely going to be massive favourites for the All-Ireland at this stage. Ballygunner second. Ballygunner last year, they pushed Ballyhale close for a while down in Thurles to the All-Ireland semi-final. There was that scuffed effort for a goal that if it went in for Ballygunner might have been closer, but I did feel Ballyhale were a little bit ahead of them for sure. And if Slaughtneil meet Ballyhale, assuming Ballyhale don't drop off, like Richie Reid is leaving, he's going off on army duty, so as far as I know he's not going to be around for the rest of it, so that's their wing back gone out of the equation for Henry Shefflin's team. But unless Ballyhale drop off the map, I'd be very surprised if they don't win Leinster. I'd be shocked if they didn't beat Slaughtneil with something to spare in the All-Ireland semi-final. So while I take the point of the lads, I just think Ballyhale are just on another level to pretty much everyone. There was also a little bit of rancour up the north with the Ulster Intermediate hurling final on this weekend. Michael McMullen tweeted, Big Red tweeted, which is at Dara Devine, drove to Owenbeg for the Ulster Intermediate hurling final to find out it's been postponed. Coaching workshop on it this morning, yet there's a big 4G pitch out the back. Classic at Ulster GAA. No respect, joke. Michael McMullen did a quote tweet of that saying, coaching session on a pitch that later couldn't host an Ulster final. Surely not. And Brendan Crossan tweeted, with that kind of rain, not the wisest move to have a coaching course on the Owenbeg pitch ahead of a provincial hurling final. And yeah, that is a joke. Players shouldn't have to put up with that sort of thing. There should be a bit more pre-planning than that. Just a quick mention of the Camogie final, because Slaughtneil obviously on top on the men's side of things, but on the women's as well, they beat Lochgiel 2-8 to 1-6, and that's the Ulster County champions, or Ulster provincial champions, yet again for Slaughtneil, who are a very impressive club across the codes, and both male and female.